back riding. We haven't really gotten to see you riding, but let's ask you how it went. How were your first few days back? How fun was it, and how sore were you?
Oh, it was awesome. But you can train as much as you want ahead of riding dirt bikes or whatever, because I did my workouts, and I had to get back into the swing of things very slowly after the injury and after all the medicine and whatnot. But I was training for quite a while, and hopping back on a bike, I can tell you, you feel fine riding whatever. The next day you'll definitely feel it. No matter how fit you are, you will be sore. So it took a long time, especially with my arm. I had sore wrist. Elbow wasn't bugging me too bad, maybe a little bit, but the wrist was really sore, and especially my hand. I had a little baby hand, and I still struggle to this day a little bit with it. I have calluses and whatnot, but my sensitivity on that hand is a lot more, I should say. So things took a long time. Once you're back, even I was riding for a month and a half, and I was nowhere near riding without thinking about my arm, just because I still had discomfort, and it was just awkward on the handlebar. I don't have a whole lot of range of motion on my wrist, so it took a long time. But I finally now feel like I don't have any disadvantage. So I tell myself, obviously my arm's never going to be the same, but that's simply what I put into my head, because I feel like if I would ride right now knowing that I had a disadvantage, or telling myself, hey, I have a disadvantage, man, it sucks, or whatever, I feel like I would already be losing. So none of that.
Talking about the range of motion and the injury itself, has there been anything you've really had to adjust on the bike with your riding style? What was the most noticeable thing so far?
Yeah, the biggest problem for me riding again was I don't have good range of motion in my elbow either. Like it's stuck where it's at. I can't straighten it out, but that doesn't really matter. You're not fully extended really hardly ever on the bike. The biggest thing was my wrist. I mean, I have pretty much almost zero movement in my wrist. It's very stiff. So I started riding with a very straight arm, and that was kind of bothering me, because my wrists were weak, my grip was weak, everything was kind of weak. And until I tried the Mobius brace. The Mobius wrist brace was the best thing. I wasn't even considering riding with the wrist brace. And those guys brought one out, and they showed it to me. I'm like, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. Well, that was probably the best thing I could have possibly done, because if I wouldn't have had that thing, if I wouldn't have that thing right now, I'm sure you get used to certain things, but if I wouldn't have it, I would be pretty much screwed. If you take it off right now and I would have to ride, it wouldn't be too fun, I can tell you that much. So right now, I adjusted to everything very well. So it's like, Jesse Nelson, he rode without a thumb, and then you think about not having a thumb right now, you'd be like, oh man, that's almost impossible. Well, he made it work. He made it work great, actually. So once you actually are limited to certain things, you adjust to it. Might take some time, but in the end, if it works, that's really all that matters.
Something kind of a little bit maybe of a tough topic to bring up, but it's something that got super heavily debated. Your crash at Monster Cup and then the crash ultimately in Anaheim too. People want to debate what it was. People want to blame Mike, want to blame Ryer, everything. So if you're the guy who was in the cockpit, you were the guy in the moment, how do you look at the incidents, and is there anything that's made you reapproach, or is it just crap happens?
First thing, Monster Cup was simply my fault. There was nothing to do with the bike. I came up short on a jump, but instead of kind of just casing it, I kind of put the bike back a little bit to try and carry more speed, but my rear wheel was way before the actual landing of the jump. So I kind of framed it, and that's what shot me forward with my body. So the Monster Cup crash was completely different to Anaheim 2. I like to ride a little bit of a softer bike. It's not always ideal, as you can see with Anaheim 2. The track being soft and the transitions, because we had so much rain, it doesn't always work out that way. So we've been working on getting just a lot, like I'm riding a lot stiffer suspension right now without losing comfort, which is always great. Because bottoming out, pretty much like I did at Anaheim 2, my suspension was simply a little bit too soft. Mixed together, it was not just the suspension, because I was riding great and everything felt great. I didn't want to change anything, but the transition was a little bit notchy, and it wasn't very round, and it just hucked me forward and ripped my feet off. So Monster Cup crash, Anaheim 2 crash, completely separate.
Yeah, see, I replayed the A2 crash one. That's why I kind of saw a soft rhythm, steep transition, a little deep shock went through the stroke, and it had that
rebounded, yep.
And you were pushing. You were out of the front, getting ready to push to that next triple, and it was just that ultimate circumstance come together kind of thing.
Correct.
Talking about suspension, not just going stiffer, the team talked about it between both the HRC team and the Geico team. You guys have a lot of free reign on suspension choices. You've had success on both Showa and KYB. You're back on Showa. Do you care to talk about, the testing process, and what was your theory on going back to Showa?
Yeah. So Showa has stepped their game up a lot to where every year we kind of consider, playing the odds and kind of just pick whatever we like the best. Well, Showa came back with something that was really, really well. It worked really well, and I really liked it during outdoors, but I knew that one test wasn't just gonna cut it for me changing, or switching. So I tried it on multiple tracks outdoors. We went to, well, I really liked it on both, and went to Supercross, and I just had a better feel all in all. You know, I filled out a sheet, and I was just being honest. You know, whether I liked it or not, I was almost sold on sticking with KYB, just because there's a lot of factor taken into consideration, knowing the people, and I've worked with them for the last couple of years. Yeah, it just simply came down to, man, my personal preference was going with Showa, and yeah, we made the switch, and from then on, we've had nothing but good test days, and we learned a lot, and all in all, I couldn't be happier with the bike. It's been working great, and this just simply came down to personal preference.
So let's talk a little bit about your off-season prep. I actually was talking to AC the other night, and he was just so excited about, I think, it's around his second year working with Peter, working with you in that entire boot camp. Your guys' just process. He was talking just so highly about how excited he was. For you though, you're coming off the injury, so I mean, you've been through the steps. You probably had in your head how far along you'd be. Are you as far along in your off-season prep as you hope to be? Are you farther along? How do you feel like everything's gone?
I would almost say I'm farther than we actually thought. Our boot camp, Adam and my boot camp up at Peters was amazing. We changed up a lot of things and made it so much better. We tried some different methods, different scheduling and whatnot. Different approach a little bit on the training side, and it was a very heavy workload, but we dealt with it so great. Our recovery was great, and there's a lot of things taking into consideration when it comes to training, as how much it taxes your body and your nervous system. So it seemed like we had the perfect amount of training, so we absorbed everything instead of doing too much and you don't absorb it or not enough. I think it couldn't have been any better for Adam and for myself. We've been getting so much stronger than even in the previous years, and I mean, like Adam said, it couldn't have gone any better. He's ripping. I know he's feeling great. I'm feeling great. So right now, it's really just about staying focused and doing our laps and let nobody else, and let nothing influence us. Focus on yourself. Don't worry about anybody else. And coming to the racing, knowing that you have done everything you can to be fit and to ride great, it's a recipe for success.
Your injury and comeback, of course, for everybody, it's making for quite the amazing story. Now, we know that you've actually, like today, there's a film crew here. I think one of your sponsors has been working on something pretty cool. You guys putting together kind of basically the road to recovery for you and your entire thing. Are we going to see a pretty cool feature at the end of all this?
Yeah, I mean, we have some great footage. Obviously, previous to the crash, being in the hospital, surgeries where our camera crew has actually been in the surgery room while I was under the knife, which is pretty cool to see actually. Plus, really exclusive hour-long interview with Dr. Viola, which I could watch that the whole time, and just, it's so interesting what he talks about and what there is to say, and because a lot of people think, arm break and whatnot, but he really explains what the deal is and how bad it actually was. So we have some cool footage and we have some great things in mind, so I think in the future we will definitely see something put together, whether that's going to be a few parts or one long documentary. That is really not unsure yet. That's really unsure yet, and but I think it'll be something cool to watch, and right now we're just collecting and absorbing.